Chicago, Illinois, March 6th, 2023. The paper was thin, but it carried the weight of a wrecking ball. Notice to vacate, 30 days. LaShonda Miller stared at the letter taped to their apartment door. Red stamp, cold font, no explanation. Just a deadline. She peeled it off like it might explode. Behind her, her youngest son Malik tugged her sleeve. "Mama, we still gonna live here?" LaShonda didn't answer, because she didn't know. Apartment 4B had been home for 9 years. 2 bedrooms, cracked linoleum, heat that hissed in winter, and a view of a brick wall. But it was theirs. Section 8 housing wasn't much, but it was supposed to be guaranteed. Rent based on income, protection from sudden eviction. And yet, here it was, a pink slip on concrete. She called the housing authority, waited on hold. "Finally, your building's under redevelopment review, ma'am. We recommend you seek transitional housing or private rental opportunities." LaShonda scoffed. "With 3 kids and a part-time nursing job, you got opportunities for that?" Click. At the community center, she found Miss Janelle, 80, steel-eyed, and already halfway through organizing. "They're coming block by block," Janelle said. "Been calling it urban renewal. Since your grandma's time. Now it's public-private partnership. Different name, same broom." LaShonda rubbed her temples. "But this is federal housing." "Sweetheart, they write the rules, and when the ink dries, it's already too late." At home, her oldest son Darius read through the packet that came with the notice. "This developer, RMG Holdings, says they're building mixed-income luxury units." "Mixed income my ass," LaShonda muttered. He flipped the page. "Wait, look at this. The city council signed off 2 months ago. Quiet vote, no press." LaShonda met with a legal aid rep the next day. The woman's voice was flat. Technically, they're within their rights. The building's under what they call an exceptional redevelopment zone. It allows a 90-day fast track if the council certifies the structure as economically obsolete. This building's full of families. Doesn't change the math. She went to the council meeting, spoke during the open floor, said her piece, told her story. The alderman didn't even look up. Later, she learned he'd received a campaign donation from RMG Holdings 3 weeks before the vote. LaShonda walked home that night in cold wind, head pounding, bag heavy. On the stairs to her unit, she saw a man in a suit measuring the hallway with a clipboard. "Can I help you?" He smiled like an invoice. "Just here for assessments. Nothing to worry about." Behind him, a camera flashed. LaShonda pulled her kids inside, locked the door. She turned on the news. Not a word, not a segment, not even a tweet. But outside her window, across the street, a new sign had been posted. "Coming soon. Parkside Lofts, starting at $2,450 per month." She closed the blinds and opened her laptop. If the city wasn't going to fight for her, she'd have to fight for it. Chicago, Illinois, March 9th, 2023. LaShonda spread blueprints across the kitchen table like they were maps of a battlefield. Darius hovered beside her. Malik colored in the margins with a crayon. Baby Naya napped on the couch. The papers were scans from the city's public records. Hard to get, but not impossible. "You see that?" she said, pointing. "That's our building. On the plan, it's already labeled for demolition. These were approved before the vote." Darius frowned. "Then why even bother voting?" LaShonda nodded. "Exactly." She took the blueprints to the community center. Miss Janelle laid her glasses on and examined the lines like reading hieroglyphs. "They already zoned this place years ago, back when they built that fake grocery store over on 18th. Said it was for fruit equity. Closed in 9 months." "None of this was about us," LaShonda said. Janelle raised an eyebrow. "Was it ever?" LaShonda joined a housing rights meeting in Bronzeville. A young organizer named Amani led the room. She wore her hair natural and her fire louder than the mic. Section 8 doesn't mean sectioned off. It means survival. And when they tear out our buildings, they're not just evicting families. They're evicting legacy. Applause, murmurs, hope. LaShonda stood up. They're coming for us next. RMG Holdings. And nobody's watching. Imani wrote it down. Then we make 'em watch. The next day, LaShonda and Imani met with a local reporter. Young, white, cautious. Off the record? No, LaShonda said. On it, all of it. She showed him the plans, the vote date, the campaign money trail. His eyes widened. Can I talk to others in your building? Only if you bring a camera. At home, more letters arrived. This time from a private law firm. Polite threats in legal script. Failure to comply with relocation recommendations may result in legal action. Malik asked, Mama, what's relocation mean? She bent down. It means they want us gone, but we're still here. That night, someone knocked on the door. Loud, not friendly. She looked through the peephole. A man in plain clothes, holding a clipboard. Ma'am, I'm here on behalf of the city's urban renewal team. May I come in? No. You're required to. She locked the second bolt. Behind her, Darius picked up his phone. Recording now, he said. The next morning, a new flyer was slicked under their door. Not from RMG, from Imani's group. Know your rights. Know your neighbors. Know their names. They hope we never organize. LaShonda smiled. Maybe now they would. Chicago, Illinois, March 13, 2023. LaShonda stood outside the city hall in a drizzle that hadn't decided if it wanted to be rain. Inside, council meetings were in session. Press wasn't invited. Public comments were paused for the month. But LaShonda had other plans. Imani had done her homework. Councilman Avery Langston, South Side representative, rising star in local politics, polished like chrome. Also, the single most vocal advocate for RNG Holdings. Redevelopment Initiative. Campaign filings showed contributions totaling $140,000 over 2 years, spread thin, like syrup over concrete, through shell packs and developer consultants. LaShonda studied the numbers like they were scripture. She and Imani staked out the exit. When Langston emerged, LaShonda stepped forward. Councilman Langston, care to comment on the IMG fast-track approval? He didn't slow. We're focused on revitalizing neglected areas, ma'am. Neglected? She snapped. My building is full of families. You ever been there? Langston glanced towards security. No comment. Flashbulbs popped. Imani's team caught the whole exchange. Langston disappeared into his car. But his silence was loud enough to broadcast. By that night, the clip had 10,000 views, then 50,000. Then a local affiliate picked it up. Tenant confronts city councilman over secretive redevelopment plans. And the comments poured in. They never billed for us. Another South Side sellout. She's telling the truth. My mom lost her apartment the same way. That weekend, LaShonda's complex held its first full tenant meeting in years. People came. Elderly, young, working, jobless, mothers, veterans, quiet men who usually kept their heads down. LaShonda spoke first. We can't stop what's already signed, but we can show them we're not disposable. We can sue. We can speak. We can be seen. Janelle added, and if they move us out, we take their lies with us, loudly. Imani connected them with a pro bono legal team. A young black lawyer named Devin agreed to file a preliminary injunction based on bad faith negotiations and procedural suppression. He smiled. It's a long shot, but sometimes all you need is to slow the machine. Days later, LaShonda got a knock at her door. Another envelope. This one unmarked. Inside, a single photo. Her and the kids, taken from a distance. No note, just threat. She stared at the photo, then pinned it to the wall beside the eviction notice. Below it, she wrote in thick black marker, "We're still here." Chicago, Illinois, March 17th, 2023. LaShonda sat in the tenant council room, surrounded by boxes of copies, forms, and coffee-stained flyers. The walls were plastered with photos, eviction notices, blueprints, press clippings. She looked around. Last month, nobody spoke. Now we're building a case file thick enough to crack the foundation. Janelle nodded. Just remember, they pour concrete fast, but truth settles deeper. Devin, their lawyer, filed the injunction. It wouldn't stop the demolition, not yet, but it forced a city response. In the meantime, the tenants went on offense. Darius, now running social media, posted daily updates. Photos of mold, interviews with longtime residents, time-lapse shots of new construction fencing creeping toward their building. The hashtag Section 8 stays, started trending in local feeds. LaShonda got a call. A woman named Clarice, 72, former resident. "I lived in 4C back in 82. They pushed us out back then too. But we didn't have what y'all got. Visibility." She paused. "I've got records. I'll mail them." 3 days later, a box arrived. Letters, building reports, audio cassettes. The same RMG exec names appeared. Some of them hadn't changed titles in 40 years. At another protest, LaShonda took the mic. "This is not about one building. It's about the idea that some people are worth keeping and others are worth pushing out. We are not your afterthought. We are not your cleanup crew. We are the concrete you built this city on." Roars, fists, media. Even Councilman Langston couldn't ignore it anymore. The next week, the city filed a response. Dismissive, legalese heavy, but in a tucked-away footnote, an admission that redevelopment plans had predated resident consultation. Devin grinned. That's enough for discovery. But the pressure mounted. One night, Janelle's window was smashed, brick through the glass. A note tied around it. "Move or be moved." Janelle swept it up, tossed the brick in her garden. "Let him plant something real for once," she said. Inside her apartment, LaShonda kissed Malik goodnight. He whispered, "You gonna win, Mama?" She tucked the blanket tighter. "I don't know, but we're gonna fight." And outside, another crane arrived at the edge of the block. Big, yellow, loud, but it had to wait, because a line of tenants stood shoulder to shoulder in front of the fence, and the cameras were already rolling. Chicago, Illinois, March 22nd, 2023. They drew the line at sunrise. Chalk, spray paint, cardboard signs. Tenants, volunteers, and allies from across the city marked the perimeter of the housing complex with a chain of bodies and voices. Imani's bullhorn cracked. Every time they build luxury, they bury someone's story. Today, we write ours in stone. LaShonda stood in the front row. Beside her, Darius, holding a speaker, blasting James Brown. Behind her, elders with lawn chairs and thermoses. In front, cranes that hadn't dared move since dawn. The protest went live across 3 platforms. Journalists arrived. So did police. But not to break it up. Not yet. Inside the complex, tenants painted their windows, "Not for sale. Concrete is our home. Hashtag Section 8 stays." One banner unfurled across the top floor. "Ask us what we built before you tear it down." LaShonda was interviewed twice. She gave names, showed files, pointed to where families used to live, told stories about Mr. Conroy in 5C, who fixed everyone's fans, about Rosa, who taught kids on the porch before school buses ever showed up. "This building isn't blight," she said. It's community. You just stopped looking. ... At City Hall, the pressure cracked something. A memo leaked. Internal communications between RMG executives and Langston's office. Phrases like, clear out ahead of inspection, minimize media exposure, paint as renovation's success story. The city denied it, but the language spoke louder than the denial. That night, someone lit a fire in the alley, trash and old furniture. It burned close to the back staircase. The fire department arrived in time. Nobody hurt. But Devon filed an emergency injunction addendum. Retaliatory harassment through intimidation and endangerment. Janelle made buttons for the tenants. Not moving, not silent. Everyone wore them. Even the mailman. At the next council session, Imani and LaShonda spoke again. LaShonda ended with, "You can bulldoze a structure, but you can't bulldoze a voice that's already been heard." They left the chambers. Outside, someone had written in sidewalk chalk, "This line, don't move." And this time, the cameras stayed. Chicago, Illinois, March 25th, 2023. They came at 6:42 a.m. 3 city vehicles, 2 men with tablets, 1 with a camera strapped to his vest. They said it was a surprise inspection. LaShonda stood in her robe on the porch with coffee in one hand and her phone recording in another. "We've had more surprise inspections in the last month than in the last 5 years, she said into the lens. And they all come with a smile and a clipboard. Inside the units, they photographed chipped paint, loose floor tiles, uneven stair rails. Standard wear and tear. But they wrote it up like war crime. One of them muttered to the other, not realizing LaShonda was still recording. "Make it look bad. That's the whole point." The next day, official citations were posted on half the doors. Unsafe occupancy, recommended relocation. It wasn't an eviction, but it was a blueprint for one. Devon filed a motion to suppress the citations, citing targeted harassment and inspection irregularities. Meanwhile, Imani released the audio of the inspector's comment. Local stations picked it up. Suddenly, the conversation shifted. Tenants punished for protesting. City cited for conflict of interest. Who benefits from blight? Janelle hosted a violation tour. She led a group of residents and journalists through the building, showing exactly what had been cited. And what hadn't. She pointed to a broken light switch the city ignored for 6 years. Funny how it becomes urgent once we speak up. That night, more threats. One resident found her tires slashed. Another, a rat nailed to her mailbox. The police said there was no evidence of motive. LaShonda took photos, shared them. Caption, "We see you." Councilman Langston issued a press release. "These inspections are routine, and safety is our highest concern. Any suggestion otherwise is politically motivated." Darius replied with a quote tweet. "Funny how politics only show up when the poor get organized." At the community center, LaShonda stood before the tenants. "They're building a paper trail to justify our erasure, but we're writing our own trail, and it's louder." She held up her phone. "Document everything, every knock, every crack, every note. They don't get to control the narrative anymore." Outside, another banner hung across the building. Citation, resistance, code, survival. Chicago, Illinois, April 1st, 2023. It came on a Friday. A packet slid under the door. Official seal, cold tone. Notice of forced eviction, 10 days. LaShonda sat on the floor for a long time. Darius picked it up, read the line again, then dropped it like it burned. Malik started crying. Nia crawled into LaShonda's lap. "Why they want to make us leave, Mama?" LaShonda didn't have an answer, but she had a camera. The video went up that night. Her holding the notice, speaking softly but clearly. I've worked. I've paid rent. I've raised babies who say yes, ma'am, and get A's in school. And they want to throw us out like we're nothing. This is what eviction season looks like. It's not just a policy. It's violence in paper. Within 48 hours, it had 300,000 views. The legal team moved fast, filed for emergency injunction. Media began circling, news vans outside the complex. City Hall voicemails flooded. Langston avoided cameras. But behind closed doors, sources said RMG was reevaluating timelines. The pressure worked until it didn't. On April 5th, a marshal's notice appeared. Tenants had 7 days to vacate. Police escorts scheduled. No more extensions. No more protests recognized. The night before the deadline, the tenants held a vigil. Candlelight, prayer, spoken word, choirs from local churches. LaShonda read the names of every family still in the building. Darius read excerpts from Langston's old campaign promises. Imani read a poem that ended, "They think eviction means erasure, but we etch our names into the walls before we go." April 6th, morning, rain. LaShonda packed her bags. Not everything, just what mattered. She taped a letter to the inside of the apartment door. "You can have the walls, but not the story." Outside, residents gathered. One by one, they walked out holding signs. "I am not a zoning code. My kids deserve a home. Who are you building for?" A bus waited to take them to temporary housing. But before they boarded, they posed for a final photo. Faces tired, but not broken. That photo made the front page. Headline, "Evicted, not erased." Chicago, Illinois, April 10th, 2023. The new address was a motel on the edge of the South Loop. 1 bed for 4 people. A single microwave. Roaches bold enough to wander in daylight. LaShonda sat at the desk with her laptop open, cross-referencing city zoning records and housing court filings. Imani had emailed her a map. It was color-coded. Blocks of blue, pending demolition. Blocks of yellow, rezoned. Red, already erased. Their old building was red. But it wasn't alone. Across the city, whole sections of black and brown neighborhoods blinked off the map. Piece by piece, parcel by parcel, each with a permit, each with a promise, each with a price. LaShonda drew a circle around their building. Then another. Then another. A pattern emerged, like a slow fire with clean edges. She and Imani launched a new site. It let users search any address and see its history. Who owned it, who bought it, who was pushed out. It went viral. The New York Times emailed them. PBS called. Someone started a hashtag. Where we lived. A week later, LaShonda spoke at a conference on urban housing. She wore the same coat from eviction day. Showed a photo of her kids asleep on the motel bed. This isn't just about affordability. It's about accountability. They say blight. I say history. They say progress. I say profit. She got a standing ovation. Devin sent word from the courthouse. Its civil case was moving forward. Slowly. But it had teeth now. They had the paper trail. The video. The voice. Langston's office issued another statement. "We acknowledge missteps and are reviewing future development processes." It wasn't an apology, but it was a retreat. That night, LaShonda received an email. Subject, urgent, unit available. A building in Bronzeville. A landlord willing to take her Section 8 voucher. She toured it the next day. The walls were thin, the cabinets crooked, but it was hers. She moved in with the kids a week later. Hung the "evicted, not erased" photo in the kitchen. On the fridge, the map. On the counter, a new lease. On her face, steel. Chicago, Illinois, April 20th, 2023. The new place creaked. Pipes hissed, floors moaned, but it held. LaShonda stood at the window watching the street, sipping coffee from a chipped mug. Outside, delivery trucks, school kids, someone blaring Curtis Mayfield. Inside, silence, the safe kind, for now. Her phone buzzed. It was the legal team. Devin's voice was calm but electric. The judge granted a formal hearing, and RMG's counsel just offered a settlement. LaShonda blinked. What kind of settlement? Relocation funds, non-disclosure, no admission of guilt. But they're scared. She exhaled. I'm not signing silence. That night, the tenants met in a church basement. Those still displaced, those who moved back in, those waiting. LaShonda stood at the front. They're offering hush money, but if we take that, they keep the right to do this again. Somewhere else, to someone else. Murmurs, nods. Janelle stood. We didn't fight for checks. We fought for change. LaShonda made a choice. Go public, fully. A press conference followed. National coverage. She rent bar demands. Independent investigation into redevelopment approvals. Permanent tenant council with legal oversight. A moratorium on future Section 8 terminations without full hearings. The mayor responded, "We are open to dialogue." It wasn't a win, but it was movement. LaShonda spoke at a town hall. A packed auditorium. A woman raised her hand. You ever wish you'd just taken the money? LaShonda smiled. I used to think the right to stay meant staying in one place. Now I think it means staying seen, staying loud, staying ourselves. She went home to find Darius organizing flyers for a new project, a citywide tenant map. Malik was drawing protest art. Nia had fallen asleep on a stack of markers. LaShonda hung a new sign in the window. This address isn't just a place. It's a statement. Chicago, Illinois, May 1st, 2023. The mural went up at dawn. Spray cans, scaffolding, neighbors painting alongside artists. Block letters 10 feet high. We were here. Below it, faces. Real ones. LaShonda, Janelle, Darius. Kids in hoodies. Grandparents in folding chairs. A building that's now gone. And the people who refuse to vanish with it. The court hearing took place in a packed room. RMG Holdings sent 6 lawyers. LaShonda sent truth. She testified. So did Janelle. So did Darius. They spoke of intimidation, backdoor deals, deliberate decay, and forced silence. They showed photos, played video, quoted Langston to himself. And when it ended, the judge ordered a 60-day halt on all planned evictions tied to redevelopment across 3 districts. A review board would be formed. Tenants would sit on it. Langston lost re-election. Amani launched a citywide housing coalition. Devin opened his own tenant rights firm. LaShonda? She got her job back at the clinic. Part-time. By choice. The rest of her time went to helping others fight. She didn't plan it. But purpose has a way of finding those who don't flinch. On the anniversary of the eviction, a rally formed outside City Hall. Hundreds gathered. LaShonda stood with the mic again. She looked out at the crowd, then simply said, "We are not leftovers. We are not shadows. We are not lucky to be here. We built here." A roar followed, but she only smiled, because now everyone could see what she already knew. They never left. They had just been made invisible. Until now. Back home, she hung a frame above the couch. Inside it, a piece of drywall from the old apartment, a printout of the mural, and a note, handwritten by Malik. Home is where you fight for others. And beneath it, 3 words scratched into the wood. We were here.